Hey you, it's Jess here, and so nice to see you in my journal. Today we're going to be doing a few different spreads, basically 4 pages I think. We're going to be doing 2 book spreads, one for Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and the other for The Light of All That Falls. And then we're also doing a 6-month reading journal stats page, because I didn't put a yearly stats page into the beginning of my journal this year, and I kind of missed having a little bit of stats in here. So we're going to do a 6-month one, and then I'm also going to do sort of a little 6-month of my clip art page, which I did in my very first journal in 2023. Is it 2023, I guess? 2024? Maybe 2024, maybe. I think I hadn't really properly started in 2023. I'm getting confused. Anyway, it's first thing in the morning. It's actually raining and cold and dark because that's summer in Finland half the time. I've got my iced coffee. I got all my stuff here. So let's get into journaling. Look how my we're only halfway through the year and look how fat she is already. I think the problem is I did all of this stuff in January, like the 30 days of journaling in my planner journal. So it's taken up a lot of the space. Plus I'm using a lot of stickers. But yeah, it's going to be very, very chubby at the end. I've planned out my space, and I do have enough space for the rest of the year. So we're okay for that. It's just, it's going to be a fat little journal at the end of the year, but that's all good. So let me just put this out here. So I wanted to do 2 pages for some favorite books of mine. Now I think they were on my monthly favorites here. Once again, we're going to look through these pages because I have no idea what order they are in, because I'm terrible at this. Anyway. So May, my favorite book was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. And June, my favorite book was The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. We have a first book in a trilogy and the last book in a trilogy. So we're going to do 2 pages for them because there was a lot of like fan art and related images and easy stuff to do for Emily Wilde. And I kind of coupled together something for The Light of All That Falls because there wasn't any fan art for it. The Lycanius trilogy, you probably know James Islington from The Will of the Many. That's his really big, and The Strength of the Few, really big new trilogy. And this is his like older debut. So it's not really as talked about. So I don't really have, I kind of found other fan art for it. And the only thing is, I did the Emily Wilde one, and I feel like I made the images much, much smaller. Although I think they're still going to fill up the page, but when I did the images for Light of All That Falls, they're much, much bigger. So it's going to look maybe a bit silly together, but it's like, especially the book covers, they're very different sizes. But it'll be okay. You know, they're 2 different books. But I went through Pinterest and I found a bunch of actual fan art for Emily Wilde. So these are the ones that I picked out. I think there's also fan art for the other books in the trilogy. So I tried to pick ones that felt more like the first book, because I haven't read the other ones. And then I found these images that made me think of that kind of came up in the same search. And then I looked up some Norway stuff as well, because it felt very like the book was in a fictional version of Norway with fairies. So that's what I did, but I think we can still make them really cute. And unlike The Light of All That Falls, I do have a sticker sheet here from Hello Petite paper, and this is the fairy garden deco, which I thought would be perfect because the book is about fairies. And then I also have a Scribble Prints Co A5 paper here, which is like a dictionary paper. We've got some nature stuff, pictures in there. I thought that'd be perfect because, you know, she's creating an encyclopedia. It's not really like a dictionary, but, you know, it's a similar kind of feeling. It's got that academic feel to it. So I thought that'd be really cool. I thought all those together, I think, will turn out really nicely. Then The Light of All That Falls was much harder for me to pick out papers. In the end this morning, I pulled out this one, which was a paper I did for my Lord of the Rings clip art set that I made a long time ago, and this pattern always made me think of Boromir in the movie, the Boromir's undershirt. Like, you can see his shirt sleeves a lot. He has this sort of fabric on the... So yeah, this is my Boromir paper. I'm a Boromir lover. And I also have this from a piece from the ancient myth, or the Odyssey inspired paper set the art set that I did, and this is from the journaling set, like the creative journaling set. It was like half scene and half this paper. I thought it might be cool, like if I like tore this and sort of layered it together, just to add a little bit more color there. And then for this one, I didn't have any, there's no fan art for them. So I found some fan art by looking up the character, what they look like. So I've got sort of this sort of amalgamation of, this sort of representation of Weir. And then this like cute little couple. I'm not sure what book these characters all are, so I apologize for that. I just found them off Pinterest. But this one stood in as Davian and Ashalia for me. So especially because I wanted to have feelings of the last book. I don't want to spoil anything. You might plan to read The Light of All That Falls. But these are the three main characters in terms of that. And then I also I found this cool photo of a knight with a sword. And this is sort of my stand-in for Caden. So I want to do more Caden. And then you have like this fire and destruction. If you read Light of the Falls, there's a lot of destruction in the last book, I will say. And then we have a sword because of Licanius. It's called the Licanius trilogy, and it's all focused on this sword, Licanius. Then to evoke some parts that happened in the book with Dav most likely. I have this sort of hands in chains. I thought of this one part of Dav in the books, and then we have this ring as well, which the ring is, I wasn't 100%, I couldn't remember exactly how the ring is described, but I decided to use a more, a more simple ring design to sort of represent that ring, which is also, I feel like, a key thing in the whole trilogy. So that's all my Light of All That Falls. I don't really have any sticker sheets to go with it. I do have these Scribble Prints Co antique frames that could go with them, but neither of them. But I don't have as many really stickers to go with it. So we might leave it as is, although we could do some gold stars or something. But I thought I put in the colorful background to sort of add to it. But I feel like this is a good representation of the last book of the Licanius trilogy, which I loved. I didn't expect to love it. I feel like Licanius trilogy. Let's start by putting the paper down. I would have talked about this in my July reading journal because I was updating my June reading stuff during then, and that's when obviously I finished the book in June. But I did not expect to end up being so into the books. Even as I started book 3, I was still I feel like it's very much inspired by Wheel of Time, and it's very much has that feeling of the memes of you're trying to read a new fantasy book for the first time and all of the names and places are so what? What are these things called? And honestly, I will say if I reread the trilogy, I wouldn't do the audiobook again. I did the first 2 books as audiobook, and even though Michael Kramer is very, very good, I've read a lot of books read aloud by Michael Kramer, and I feel like I was getting a bit tired of his narration while I was listening to these, and I also just felt like it was much harder to follow because everything has really complicated names. Some characters have multiple names, especially after the first book. So the second book gets way more confusing. There's also different timelines, time travels, wrapped up with those different names. It gets a bit confusing, and I feel like if I would recommend reading it physically or digitally and keeping notes. I think if I reread it, I would keep notes just to better follow who and what everything is. Like literally, I feel like at least there was one character that every time he had, I think, 3 names, and each time I was so confused about who he was. I was like, oh, it's that guy. But then I can't remember, like, wait, when did he come into this? Why was he in that section? Where were they? Anyway. I think it's definitely a note-taking book series. It's a very ambitious debut trilogy. And I applaud James Islington for that, and I feel like he's really honed his skills in, especially for the Will of the Many. Alright, so I did have sort of a mock-up of how I wanted to put these up here, but I haven't brought my laptop to myself. So we're kind of just gonna place these around and see how we feel about them. So anyway, enough of the Light Up Falls. We're talking about Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies now. And this is not a book. At first I was interested in this book. And then I saw a lot of like, it was a lot more related to cozy books and a lot more to like cozy fantasy, and also a lot more, I feel like a lot more coming up of romantasy readers were reading this, and I'm not a romantasy one. And I've read, the other main cozy fantasy that I read was, what was it called? You know, the Travis Baltrue one. I can't even remember it now. I know that the second book, is it called Bookstores and Bone Dust or something? Oh my, why can't I remember? It's the coffee shop one. And I was so let down by that book. I was kind of mad because everyone was saying like how brilliant it was and the coziness. And I don't need everything to be like crazy something happening all the time. I do actually find myself enjoying some cozy at the moment, but I was very disappointed in that book. And I won't get into it now, but it just felt like it was she was opening a Starbucks, which was made slightly, which they added a slight fantasy hit to, and that's it. Anyway, so I was kind of put off on cozy fantasy because I do kind of want something happening. I don't want it just to be a normal in-world thing that gets slightly fantasized. And then what I say is that like, funnily enough, I was kind of drawn into this book after reading some of my own friends like not enjoying the book. Not to call you out, Andrea. I love you, girly. But the way she mentioned like why she couldn't get into this book, I think she DNF'd it the other year. I think the year it came out, so a couple years ago. And I've been thinking about that ever since, like what she said about it. And then what other people have said about it, and they're like, they couldn't get into sort of, it was like nothing was happening, and it was like too academic and too boring. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of interested in that. I was like, I saw someone saying it's very academic and very like, it's about academics. So it's like, finally I think it was when I finished the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne, the Viking fantasy books, also so good. I think that was actually the last book that was also on my favorite of the month. Yeah, The Fury of the Gods. So after The Fury of the Gods, I went my first ever time having a book hangover. Like I actually felt like I'm exhausted after finishing Fury of the Gods. In a good way. It was a very good book, but I was also just like, I just felt physically tired. So I was like, what, I'm going to finally pick up Encyclopedia of Fairies. I have credit, so I didn't have to, I had credit on Audible. I'm still using it because I have credits on there that I wanted to use up, and I've got books on there I still want to listen to. So, okay, we kind of like made this display here, but luckily, I've got, you know, stickers to put in here so we can like fill up these sort of odd spaces. So bear with me while I continue my story. So yeah, I was like, I need something easy, and then I remember like people saying like this was a cozy fantasy, nothing was really happening, but it's very academic, and I do love, you know, if you're new here or you haven't heard, I have a PhD in history. Specifically, my PhD was on the mysticism of nuns in the 17th century. So I love female-centered history. I love the mystical. Obviously, I did more. That was more like Catholic mysticism, but I love, you know, so folklore as well, and fairies and things. And I also kind of wanted to read something. I also felt like I heard that it was a bit more like actual fae than what is currently in with fae these days. So, you know what, I was like, you know what, maybe this will be the perfect thing. I picked up the audiobook. It was a credit so that I already had. It was gifted to me. So I was like, I'll give it a try. And I really, really enjoyed the audiobook. I will say I think the narrators were really good. There is, I was listening to the book and I was like, I felt like I was over halfway through the book, and then I saw, when I was looking things up, that there was a male narrator, and I was like, oh, when does he come in? But there is like a chapter or two with the male character, because this is like, the book is in the form of her journal, and at some point he kind of writes in her journal, so you get the male narrator coming in, which I thought was interesting. I really liked the format of it. But I will say, if you want something cozy and easy to listen to as an audiobook, I do recommend this one. I really enjoyed it as an audiobook, and I thought the narrator was really good, and the male narrator as well. But yeah, so I put it on, I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of loved it. I know some people like, I guess it was a slow burn, but I thought it was like I was just really like into the slow burn. Like I was enjoying like the build up and you know, seeing where the story was going to go. It's about she's a scholar of fairies, and she is working on an encyclopedia, which no one has done, actually sort of documenting all of the all the fae lore in the world put together. And she's doing some last work on it by going basically to a fictional northern Norway, I guess. It feels like that's where she is, like in the fjords or something. And she goes to this village who have been having, like their fairies are just not really well known, and they seem to be very different. So she goes up there to catalog them and to do research, and then she gets followed by her fellow scholar, who she gets very mad. She's just very annoyed because he's like, you know, he's he's just like, he could do no wrong, and the academic world loves him, whereas the academic world does not really love her. So definitely, I think a lot of the references to the actual academic world and conferences and university life actually felt very, very real to me. Just in the few years that I was in academia, I was like, yeah, I understand that. Like, I was thinking about like when she quips that at conferences everybody is cold, and it's like, yep, that is true. We're all cold at conferences, and you know, the networking and trying to get published, and it was all very relatable. So I felt like on that side of things, I felt it was very relatable, and then I feel like it was a slow burn, but I feel like it was fascinating enough to see sort of this burgeoning, like the beginning of her research and building up into what actually happens in the books and in the book. And I really I enjoyed the whole adventure that ends up happening, and these the discovering of these different fae. So I actually really enjoyed it in the end, much more than I thought it was. I was quite surprised at it, because I feel like most of the people that I personally know on Goodreads that I follow weren't huge fans of it. So now this one's much harder to find the edge of. Let's get some stuff in my nail. Anyway, yeah, so I felt like if you give it a bit more of a go, but I feel like, yes, it is a little bit, she is a dry, awkward academic who is sort of, she definitely still is very socially unaware and possibly socially, like, she's just not good at stuff. She's a book girly, you know? I related on the sense of I'm not very good at like talking, and I'm not very good at like I'm much better when I write things down and when I read things, especially when I was in the academic stuff. I was not one of those people who could just ask questions of everybody like right away, and I have to think about it and I can write about it. And I've also done the thing where I was living in Australia doing my thesis, and I traveled to the UK to do my research, and I did research at a monastery in Berkshire, because they had the monastery has a whole archive, because I was studying a specific convent in the 17th century that was in Antwerp, because they were English nuns in exile, because in the 17th century you couldn't really be openly Catholic in the UK. So they practiced their faith in secret, basically, and if you wanted to join a religious order, you had to basically fake your name, fake passes, and smuggle yourself out of the country to the mainland and find an English monastery or nunnery convent in exile in mainland. So mine was a Carmelite convent that was in Antwerp. I just want to see how I want to do this. I think I just want to tear it like this way. Maybe if I tear it that way, I can do two. Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to layer over the top. I'll make it a bit thicker, but that's okay. And so that convent did last, like during basically a lot of the English convents fled the French Revolution, and they were able to go back at that time. By the French Revolution, they were able to go back and reestablish their convents in England, due to the French Revolution. And my convent also fled during that, because in Antwerp it was part of the Spanish Netherlands at the time, and it got like invaded by the French. So and of course now it's the Netherlands, but oh no, it's Belgium now. Antwerp's in Belgium, but I never got to go to Belgium. Like because there was a copy of the document that I used in England. But anyway, my convent fled back to England during the 18th century, and they recreated their convent in, I think it was called Darlington, which is ironic because in Australia where I lived, I once lived in next to a suburb called Darlington. But anyway, I was going to put this underneath over the top of some of this, so I should pick this back up. Apologies. I'm going to do some layering here. Anyhow, so they moved their whole library, the things that they saved from the convent when they were able to save a lot more of their stuff when they fled the revolution, because obviously a lot of the French based convents, they had to leave a lot of their stuff behind, but they were able to take the library across the channel, and they sort of just reformed there. But I think, when did it close? I think the convent closed in the 90s or even like the 2000s. Not that long ago, really, in the space of things. But then when the convent closed, because I think they ended up having only, I don't know, like 5 nuns in the end. Five older nuns. But they gave their library to this monastery, some Benedictine monks in Berkshire. So they had the library of books there. Some of them being 600 years old, and that's where I did a lot of my research. They also had a copy of the history book, the annals that I was using in my research. So I also worked through that. That was like a handwritten copy. They also had a typed up copy. And then, yeah, I did a whole like chapter on their library because there was like, I think there was actually like 3 mystical visions that were based around the library in the convent at the time. So I wanted to actually see what they were reading, and it was kind of part of the whole thing. But anyway, so I felt like I was a bit, I related a bit to Emily in terms of going to this strange place. I actually stayed in a completely isolated hotel, pub, motel place. It was completely surrounded by fields and nothing else. And I was there, and then I had to take taxis every day because I can't drive to the monastery to go to the archives to look through these 500-year-old, 600-year-old books. And then I actually ended up having lunch. So they had like a public lunch because they held retreats and stuff at the monastery, but I was going to stay there, but all of their rooms were booked up at the time. But I was having lunches there, and then on the final day, it was a Friday. And so there was only like 3 other people there from having a retreat at the time. So we ended up being invited having lunch with the monks themselves. So we went into the private dining area of the monks and had soup because it was a Friday. So I was there at their like little buffet. I was trying to get soup and bread and fruit surrounded by these monks like in their robes. And it was very weird because the other people who was there from the public for the retreat were all men as well. So I was like literally the only woman in there, and it was really weird. And I really related to Emily in a lot of the weirdness. That is to say, I really enjoy Encyclopedia Fairies, but I feel like a lot of my own experiences in academia and research colored that a little bit. So I will say that, but I was actually thinking I might actually bring out some shiny gold stars for Light of It Falls just to add something to that, because I didn't really have any stickers that really went with it. So I wanted to maybe do some shiny gold stars just to like give it a little bit extra oomph. Yeah, so I feel like Emily kind of had a similar thing of, you know, she kind of is sort of, but other than, I'm more actually just awkward, whereas she kind of just like doesn't care. Like she does not want to, she just wants to do her work, and she doesn't actually care that much about other people. And she's very like detached from who she is around when she's doing her research. But then the events of the book kind of, you know, make her work on herself and see herself in a different light and be able to do things differently. Okay, I think that's all the stars I'm going to do. Maybe one more there. Okay. So I did enjoy that. Whereas I was just very socially awkward having lunch with these monks. But anyway, it was an experience. And my God, I will tell you, 600-euro books smell amazing. And the library itself, like in the archive, they had like a big archive area, big reading room. But the convent that I was studying, their books, the library was in a small offside room. So they had their own little room, which was just shelves. You open the door and it's just shelves filled with all of their books. And that room smelled heavenly. It's 600-euro paper and goat leather. And it was really, really cool. So to read the books that they read, and I got photos of a lot of them. So you know what, how about I'll put a photo of one of the books up here to show you. This is like one of their small illustrated ones. And yes, I did. It's kind of like, these days you do not use gloves while reading, like looking at old books, because you kind of lose you lose sense of how to touch things when you wear gloves, and you might actually like more likely to tear or destroy a book without gloves. So yes, I did handle the 600-euro books without gloves, but I'll show you a little picture there so you could see what I was talking about. And I know, sort of, Obviously, Emily was studying fairies, so it was a bit more interesting. But to me, I loved it from my story time. But that is the 2 book pages done. I think they turned out really cool. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm glad I got these little fairy stickers from Hello Petite paper. I was considering trying to find like just vintage fairy stickers, but a lot of them I couldn't. I wasn't sure if they could be AI or not, so I went with a sticker maker that I knew. And then obviously just the Pinterest pictures for the ladder wall that falls. I'm glad I did the 2 sort of papers together. It gave the page a little bit more interest, and the gold stickers too are super useful. So now let's get through and do my 6-month stats and my 6 months art. Now I pull out these 2 pages from like papers from SPC because I feel like they kind of go together. They do go together. They're from the same set. And then I also have, I want to do the stats label from this, and then I have monthly labels here from SPC because I've been using these especially in my setup. As you can see, I use these kind of stickers there. And I do have written here all of my stats here, although one bit got a little bit wet, but I can still read it. And actually, ironically, on the topic of this, I'm using a notepad from my uni days. So, you know, I went to University of Adelaide, but I was sponsored by the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence for the History of Emotions, because that is what I used history emotions methodology for my PhD. So our centre had all of these notepads, and the last year that I did my thesis was actually the end of the centre. So we all grabbed a whole bunch of these before we left. Because, you know, you never know when you need a notepad. But yeah, so they paid my stipend for my thesis, and they paid for my research trip as well, which was very nice. So I got reimbursement for all those taxis I had to take. But they booked my accommodation, all that. So it was very, very cool. And it was very, very, I don't know, it just felt right doing emotions. There's a lot of emotions to do with mysticism. Okay, but now we're going to move on. We're talking about book stats now. So I'm going to put these pages down, as always. This is what I'm taking my journal super duper fat, but I think it looks so cool that I don't care. Oh, I've already messed up my, there we go. Okay, I had a little lumpy bump. That's okay. We'll survive. All right. So the only thing with this is I can get some paper and just glue down some paper to make my things, or I can look for some stickers. So my art one, I've got these. Oh, I will say, so I'm doing 6 months of my art, but I will say February art ended up being a custom that has not yet released. So I am not going to put that one down. I did print it off. So once that art is released, I'll put it into the journal. I just, it's a custom for SPC and she hasn't released it yet, so I don't want to spoil it. So I'm just going to put this here as is. I don't know if I'm going to have a label because I don't know if I have a matching label to go with this. So I think I'm just going to put these in here and I know what they're about. And just have this in the, like this sort of background. Although I want to layer them too because it is very busy. Let me go quickly find if I've got anything. All right, I am back. Okay, so what I figured out is I have another set of papers from SPC which are just grid. I thought maybe if I put, like it's going to go a little bit see-through over the top. I feel like that might give me a little bit more something around the images of here, and then I thought maybe I'll do my stats on this grid, and this is a pink grid. This is just a gray-black grid for the back of the pictures. So off camera I'm going to put the grid border for the background for the February art that I'm missing, so when finally I can put it in, then it'll have its grid background. Because I'm going to stick them down on here and then cut them out. And then here I'm just going to try and cut them into like 6 equal pieces so we can write these down in here. And then obviously these are very big and long, so what I'm going to do is what I did for my monthly favorites here is I cut them down and then I cut the very end off as well, so I have the piece on the end and I kind of piece them together. And I think that will work well. So that is what I'm going to do. So first I'm going to put this other background in, and then we're going to start sticking and cutting down. I'm going to do these first, I think, and then I get an idea also of maybe what size I want to do my stats on as 2. But we'll see how it comes out. I know. I just decided just to do something very like bold and graphic with these pages because I have these really cool papers from SPC. And I do want to try and use more of them overall. Because I don't get to use them in my like main setup, my reading setup. So I'm going to trim these down and I'll be right back. Alright, so those pages are in. So I'm going to start sticking these onto here. Because they don't really have to be in order, but we'll see how this goes. The only problem with using all these stickers, they're cut out like this, is trying to lift them all up. So I might like put it into the middle of the grid, just so, you know, that looks a bit more balanced. I don't think it needs to be lined up with the grid. But maybe we can have like that sort of size. Let me just unplug all these stickers and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I just quickly did this for the 6th art, the custom art. So now she's all cut up and put away, but it will match the other ones. So when I go to put actually in to the journal, it will be all good. And cut this down a little bit at the top. So that's how they sort of ended up looking like. Then they look cool. So do a little bit of the top here. But yeah, I ended up just using this paper trimmer to do it. Makes it super easy. The grid makes it easier too. I think they're looking real cute. All of my favorite art from the last 6 months. Just that some of them is the only art I did in that month, which was mostly that custom. So I'm going to quickly put these in. So the first one I have, January, I did a Lunar New Year or Chinese themed. I'm just going to do it sort of randomly like this to see if I can fit. Maybe I should do it like less. So that one will go there, the February one, which was a custom. So let's put this here during this so we can see how it might go. Because they don't have to be perfect. So then this was January, February, March was my like spring folk one. And then January, February, March. What did I do this one in April? Or was it this one in April? I think it was Ancient Myth in April. Like so. So this one, February would go in like this. And then May, I did my Pride Beach. So like my Pride / a summer set. And then finally in June, I did a seaside nautical set, which had references to Widow's Bay in it. Okay, I think that's gonna look cool, especially once we put the last one in there. And then I don't think they really need a label. It's kind of like self-explanatory. But I think the grid helps just to make them pop a little bit more on top of this paper. So size-wise, maybe I should just try and do the same size as these because they will fit in here. But I don't think they have to be as wide. But basically, I want to do it. Basically, we want to cut from this line, I guess. this one here. Let me just, I don't want to actually put paper on it, pen on it, because I do want to use from the top. Oh, now I've already messed it up. Let's see, roughly. Yeah, I want it a little bit, yeah, like this wide. Try to make it straight. Like so. So I want to put in, obviously, January, and then the book, pages, hours, and average rating. I could count up the grid and just do this equally. I need to do 3 boxes. And I think this looks like 4 boxes to me, so I'd add another one in here. I just want to do it this wide, and then, or maybe a little bit shorter. Okay. I'm going to try and count through here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think this is my size. And the other one is, yeah, the right number. Huzzah! Doing maths. Well, I didn't do the maths. I just used the thing. But anyway, let's try and get these in. I'm just going to write on them once they're in, or should I write on them beforehand in case I do it wrong and I can cut up a new one. I'm also going to put in stats up here. Yeah, maybe just put stats the way it is. Or I could cut up. Do I have anything reading? I could cut up the monthly, so it's like monthly stats. Like that. Monthly stats. And remember, we gotta get these really big months in, which you also have to cut up and do. Let me put this on manual focus because it's obviously getting a bit blurry at times. I'm loving how bright and fun these pages are looking though. Now, do I just want to do black for the text, or do I want to do like colors for the text? I feel like maybe colors would be a bit too much, but I want to use like a thicker black marker for the actual stats. I don't know. It just feels right to use a bigger. Maybe what I should do is practice on one of my little cut-offs here about how I want to do this. So I've just got the black N15 Tombow. So we're doing January, so what if I do 7 books? Like, do you think that would look okay? Because it's going to be on the pink grid, so it'll look a bit better. Or maybe... Do I want to do lowercase, or do I want to do... Maybe if I do uppercase and then try and fit within the grid, that will do better. I think I do want to get, because I feel like these are going to overlay a little bit maybe. I don't know. So maybe I could just keep it in the journal because I think they'll be okay. Or maybe I should just do them separately. Okay, we're just going to do them separately. But let's not try and mess it up. Okay. And then we'll stick it down and then we'll put the label on it so you don't, But I have it here on the side of me, so it shouldn't be hard to mess up. So we're going to do, for January, I read 7 books. Very good, especially because I didn't read anything in December. And then that was 2,150 pages. And 28.53 hours as audiobook. And my average rating was 4.2. 4.21. So I might just put a star here like this and put the average rating instead of writing out 4.21. I think that was great. Is this like the neatest I've ever been in my life? No. I was very neat when I got my pen license back in the day. Okay. In fact, my teacher like held it up as like, this is what you need to be doing to get your pen license. And well, ever since I got it, all of that went out of the window. But anyway, I was just really focused on doing getting my pen license, you know. Let me know if you also had to do pen licenses. Because yes, I remember it very, very well. Let me know actually in Adelaide, in South Australia, where I'm from, our state, I know in America it's called kindergarten, and I know it's called different things in other states, but in South Australia where I come from, it was called reception. You know, that school year before year 1. We called it reception, I guess because it's your reception to school. That's just what we called it. But in reception, I remember at my school we had to use blue pencil, like color pencil, to write everything. I think it's because we weren't allowed to like erase our learning. And then in year 1, we got to start using lead pencils and erase stuff. I always remember like, oh, I get to use a lead pencil next year. But anyway, in my very rare memories of childhood. All right, so then February, I'm going to do January, February, March, April, May, June. I think that's how I'm going to do it. So February, I read 6 books. And that was 1,522 pages. And I read a lot more audiobook that month. It was 40.82 hours. And my average rating was 3.92. I read a lot of really good books in January. And they were not as good in Feb, I guess. So we'll put this here. I think I like that there. And then we'll do our February monthly. I do love the design of these labels. I'm still thinking like, I've already started thinking like, how do I want to set up my 2027 journal? And like, because I kind of like using the same kind of labels and stuff. And like, do I want to stick with these black ones or do I want to switch to a different label? That could be fun. I think actually now I'm going to start putting the next month's underneath just so we have a fair space for it. January, February, and so we have March. So I'm going to cut this out as well. I don't want to keep the same headings, or do I want to make something else? Or I also have to keep in mind like what will Andrea come out with from SPC? Like will she come out with a new heading style that I'm really into or not? We don't know. I feel like this is pretty like still on trend. March, and then we need April. I'm just gonna cut all of these down to the 3 just so they're all sort of similar. This sticker is not happy though. And then, but obviously you can see how it cuts off with the 3 that you want to, you need to really cut off the end bit so you can make it a bit more, so it looks still more even. It can be a little tricky to line up the end bit that you've cut off, but I think it's worth it in the end. Except right now where I'm just like messing it up. Like with this background, it doesn't really matter if it's super messed up, you know? Yeah, that gives me enough space. All right, so let's do March now. March was also 7 books. I was doing a readathon in March. So 7 books. 7 books, 1,754 pages. I read more but smaller books. And then I had 32.33 hours. And then my average rating was much higher. This is apparently one of my best reading months. It was 4.57. In fact, that is my best reading month in terms of average rating. I should go back and have a look because I'm like, what? What was so good in March? Let me have a look actually. What did I read in March? This is April and March. Well, every read Yumi the Nightmare Painter, that was good. Linus Rampant, which is the end of a childhood book, so nostalgia. Sunbringer was 4 stars, that was not bad. Well, Murder by Diary is really good. Enjoyed Queen Demon. And then I also read 2 of the Tyrant Philosophers books by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and they're like my new all 5-star, also good book series. Like, they're literally also good. I've just started on the 3rd book, and I'm so very happy. I love this series, so that makes sense that I had such a high rating that on March, because I read 2 of those, and also Yumi the Nightmare Painter, and a childhood favorite, so yeah. Alright, so with April, I read 5 books. You're gonna see now my book count goes down because I kind of like, I read way too many books. Plus at the end, in April, I read that Bloodsworn Saga book, The Fury of the Gods, and I had a huge hangover from it. So yeah, because I was still very much processing that book. So it goes down for May and June. But so that was 1,487 pages. That was 24.2 hours. I think I only read 1 audiobook then. Honestly, these are probably all 1 audiobook too, when I think about it. Because I tend to have a really long audiobook. Oh no, February was 2 audiobooks. And 1 was really, really long and 1 was short, so that makes sense. We're April, okay, 22 hours, and I have average rating of 3.8. And I get all of my stats on Storygraph, although I don't do like reviews or social media stuff on that. I find it very confusing to use because I don't use the apps. I use it as a web browser thing, and I guess it's probably better in app form, but yeah, I find Storygraph kind of hard to use and really get use out of. I'm just going to keep these as they are because might as well. And I'll keep the rest of these pages because I will do another 6-month wrap up at the end. And I think that'll be good. So we have like 2 sets of this page. So for May, we have, but yeah, Storygraph, I just use it, once I do everything into Goodreads, because it's just, I have everyone on there, and it's interesting to see book releases and stuff on it. I just haven't worked out how to use Storygraph that way, but I do like to put my books in there, and I look at the monthly stats. So we have 3 books in May. And that was 676 pages. And that was 12.08 hours. And the average rating was 3.67. So as you see, I read much, much less in May after all of that stuff for the first of the year, but I read so 12.8 hours, I believe, was Emily Wilde, and then I read 2 of the Mercedes Lackey books, the first of the Valdemar. Yeah, Arrows of the Queen and Arrows Fly. And then I technically... yes, here's my problem. Arrows Full was kind of in the middle, so it's not really counted in any of these stats. Oh dear. That would have changed stuff. I think Arrows Full was supposed to go into May, but it didn't end up in May or June. Did I not put that in? I was just going to ignore it. I didn't like Arrows Full, so I gave it 2 stars. So you can leave that one out because, no, it made me I was not happy with that book. I would say the first book is worth reading. Arrows of the Queen. I thought that was really cozy, and I really liked the vibes of it, and then it went weird, and then it went terrible. There's a whole thing where her character gets... And this is sensitive information, but she gets gang awo. I don't really want, I have to censor myself for YouTube, and I don't really want to say the silly censorship words, but she was gang thinged by evil people in that book, and it literally did nothing for her character. It literally puts her out of the game, so she ends up not even being in the last battle. It doesn't do anything for her character. She just gets attacked and damaged and, you know, really, really hurt for no reason. It was so maddening that would happen to her. That happened to her, and she didn't even get like revenge. She, like, herself, like everybody else ended up fighting the main battle, and she was basically out of it except for one time. And she was just basically in bed for the rest of it. And then, oh my god, no. I have to tell, like, this is the end of a long video, so I'm gonna actually, you know, I never got to talk about this book in these other videos. I kind of, maybe I guess I avoided it, but oh my god, then the end part. So she ends up getting, I'm gonna spoil this because I don't care, because I don't think you should read it. You should read the first book, but you shouldn't read the rest of it. Oh my god, it made me so mad. She ended up getting, so all that happened, then the battle just went, and then the rest of the book is about her marriage to this guy. And he's been so annoying through all the books because one woman was really mean to him and strung him along and then said he was ugly. And he was so mean. And so then he was all like, oh, I can't talk to her, even though there's a weird, like, fated mates thing about them. Like, they instantly fell in love with the first time they met each other. And there's nothing they can do about it. I hate that. But anyway, they get married and then they go to the bed and he's like, are you sure you want to be intimate with each other? Because, you know, she was gang blank. And she was like, no, I'm fine now. I'm all healed. And you know what? I may have been physically R-word, but you were mentally R-word by that woman who turned you down and was mean to you. And that's much worse. And I was like, ah! If I hadn't been reading on my ebook, if it was a physical book, I would have thrown it. I was so mad. I was like, Mercedes Lackey, what? What the heck? I think these were written in the 80s, so there you go. But I was also like, what? What he went through was worse. A woman stringing him along and then saying that he was ugly was worse than her being gang blanked. And she's fine now. She got healed by magic. And I was like, ah, burp. Anyway. So, I'm kind of turned off by the Valdemar series. And that is why this book is no longer within my stats, I guess. I was too mad when I finished it that I obviously didn't possibly add it to my story graph. But thank you for letting me have my rant, because I was incensed. That was like literally right at the book, and then it had the beautiful romance, like then it was like, oh, now they could embrace each other, it's so romantic. And then the guy that she was, and then the ghost of a guy who they both knew who died in the book was like there with them. It was implied he was there with them on their wedding night. I'm like, that's disgusting. Anyway. The first book is so wholesome. You know, she's a young girl who gets saved from a horrible patriarchal society, and she gets saved by a magical horse, like a unicorn, or I don't know, they're just magical horses that they're like spiritually connected to, and she goes to a wonderful like academy kind of thing. It's very sweet. And she has to overcome, and all the adults are really great in it. Like, they understand that she's traumatized, and when she comes to them with issues, they actually go and fix it for her because they're the adults and they help her. Oh my god, that was so great. And then the rest of the books happen. Oh my gosh. Anyway. I've just remembered that book now, and I'm so mad about that stuff in it. Anyway, moving on. Let's just finish up here, okay? Before I lose my mind. So 3 books in June. I wrote June. Excuse me. Excuse me. What am I doing? I'm just gonna hand cut this I've lost my mind. I need to finish up this video. Thank you for letting me rant because, yeah, I totally forgot about all my big feelings about that book. Oh. It's the police to come to take me away for for losing my mind. Okay, 3 books. I did it, okay. And that was 1,779 pages. Look, outside is trying to make all the noises now, so probably a sign that I need to finish up. And then I had 36.45 hours. And I know for sure that was one book. That was a Wheel of Time book. Because the Wheel of Time books love to torture you. And then this had the exact same average rating, 3.67. But I guess if it's only counting 3 books and I gave them like all the same scores, I guess, across them, it ended up having the same, which is kind of cool and weird. Okay, center yourself, Jessica. Okay. I think those are done. I think they look cool. I don't think I have any titles I could use for this art page. Except for like faves. So I'm just gonna leave that. That's fine. And once February is released, the February custom is released, I can put it there. So I don't accidentally spoil it when I'm flipping through my journal, you know. But I think those pages look good. I'm happy with the monthly stats, and I think I don't need to add any more because I feel like the paper really adds, you know, does the whole story for you. And then we have the 2 book pages which are very, very different, but I'm glad I did them. I think I've only done one other book page before this. Everything else is like TV and games. So I did one for Yumi the Nightmare Painter for my reread, but that had like official art that was included in the book, so I really wanted to reference that. Plus, it's definitely one of my all-time favorite books, just the way it talks about art and human expression versus machine. Oh, so good. But I think that was my only book page in here. I hadn't thought about doing it, but after I've been watching a lot of Kirsten. Obviously she works at SPC, Kirsten. I think, is it Plans and Reads or Kirsten Plans, or I'm not sure what her YouTube is now, but I've been watching a lot of Kirsten. She does these pages she does more like a page like this with the big book title, big book cover, and then like she puts images and different decorations in. Why did that come up? Get down there. Anyway, so I kind of took inspiration from Kirsten, and I do like the way they came out, just sort of reference and visual memory about the books. I struggle to write in a journal, and I struggle to write about books, although I obviously have a lot of feelings and thoughts about them. But I struggle to write in these books unless I did something like this. I feel like with a smaller pen, my hand gets really blah. Yeah, writing a lot in a journal, like it just does a lot. It hurts, and my writing gets really, really messy. But maybe if I could do small things, like maybe with a thicker pen like that, it could happen. But I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying just doing sort of the collaging and having memories of the books that way. But obviously I haven't been doing that much. I've been doing like other things. I did a song one. If you missed my summer spreads, go check that out because I did these ones in the summer spreads and the TV shows, obviously. So what's next in this journal is I did want to try and do a 2-page for Widow's Bay, but I think I'm going to wait for my seaside art from SPC to come into the mail, and that will be next haul. So it'll be like next month that I can do Widow's Bay. I haven't quite figured out what pictures I want to use for it yet. So I want to do something for Widow's Bay because, you know, I feel like we all got obsessed. And then in the summer spreads, you will see my summer bucket list. And I'm working on putting photos in here, which we can always do together. Maybe at the end of the summer, I'll do an update and put the photos in and let you know what I did. And then, of course, here we have July. And I finished Planet Fall, and I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really, really good. Little character study, sci-fi, where they live in a colony on a different planet. And there's a lot of secrets. that they keep hidden from you, and you find them all out, and it kind of goes nuts. I was on the edge of my seat for the last 10% of that book. I was just like, oh, reading it. But anyway, I also want to do a page for Vampire Lestat, but I kind of want to wait for it to finish entirely. But I've kind of planned what I want to do for the show The Vampire Lestat, because I did do the first 2 seasons. So if you didn't know, the Interview with the Vampire, the TV show, it's so good. I highly recommend it. Vampires, messy romance. All the actors in it are so good. So there's season 1 and season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, so that's the one book across the 2 seasons. And then The Vampire Lestat is actually the 3rd season. It's a continuation, but because it's based on the next book of Anne Rice, which is called The Vampire Lestat, they changed the name, so it would go with the book. And so that means, I think if it gets renewed, the next season should be called Queen of the Damned, because they're only doing 1 season for Vampire Lestat, I believe. We have 2 more episodes left of that right now as I'm filming, and it's so freaking good. It is a roller coaster. Because in this one, your point of view is Louis. He's doing the interview. But in Vampire Lestat, your point of view is Lestat, and they actually framed it as he did a bunch of recordings. So it's not an interview, but it's him recording what happened in these years of the Vampire Lestat. So it still has that interesting, like, unreliable narrator, a character's specific point of view. So what you're seeing is not entirely all truth or reality. And you kind of see that play out between the 2 shows. So I do recommend that. Yeah. I'm just going to sit. I did One Piece as well, season 2. I'm just going to sit here, Pocopia. Sometimes I sit here and I just look through this journal, and it makes me so happy. I'm so happy with my journal this year. It's been really good. All right, I'm going to stop now because this video is horribly long and my battery is literally about to die. But thank you so much for spending time with me and listening to me rant and journal. I hope you had a good time watching or listening. Did you do some journaling yourself, or do you just hang out with me? But thank you so much for spending your time with me. Let me know, have you read some of these books? What did you think? How did your monthly stats go? Did you have good reading months or not? Let me know. But otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Maybe leave me down below just some book emojis, because we did some book spreads. Book, fairy, and butterflies. I think that'd be fun. But otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I love you. Bye-bye.